Good afternoon, colleagues. I hope everybody can hear me and we are good to go. I'm about to share my screen with you so we can get this incredible topic underway and discussed. So welcome this afternoon to the Cyber Effect Phase 2 webinar series. Today's topic is social media is inevitable. And together with the help of Charmaine, our guest speaker, we are going to navigate through social learning, give you some tips, tricks, and some advice. So without further ado, my name is Tracy Hopton. I am a high school educator at Norman Henshaw High School in the southern suburbs of Cape Town. I've been teaching at Normies for almost 10 years, and I'm a member of the senior management team. I'm lucky enough to be the current grade 11 grade head and the subject head of life orientation. So I want to thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I'm a firm believer in lifelong learning, and that is truly possible when we partake and are part of professional development like today. So thank you so much for availing yourselves. I know a Monday afternoon is challenging in that regard, but I hope the next hour and a half is engaging and has you on the edge of your seats. In our chat section, please find the register. It's imperative that you complete that register today. Also make sure if you are viewing from one screen but are more than one participant in today's webinar, please will you each take a chance to register. I'd also like to invite you to join our social media platforms, specifically Twitter or Instagram. You'll be able to tweet and engage with us on these platforms throughout the session, even beyond today and this afternoon. That's on Twitter, the WCDE Culture, and then my own personal Twitter account, Berna Barnes. My surname used to be Barnes before I got married. And then on Instagram, Teaching Life Orientation. That's my personal but open profile. And then the WCDE Learning Instagram account. Pictures from today's session, anything in that regard, we'd love you to be on board. Any engagement is always positive when it has to do with professional development. So thank you so much. A brief description of what we're going to be discussing today is really looking at educators and their involvement in the inevitability of making use of social media, not just for social engagement, but for the engagement of social media. I really want to thank you so much and just encourage you to use this as a safe space to ask questions, to share your inputs. And if you see something that you can use in your classroom, share it with your colleagues in your class, beyond the classroom, but also within your school. We want to draw attention to the relevance of digital learning as it presents so many opportunities to expand learning. You know, it's beyond the four walls of the classroom. We see that COVID's taken us on a whirlwind journey of engaging more than just face-to-face. And social media is a great platform to do that. So I'm going to bounce back and just show you those platforms that you can engage us with today beyond the chat of this webinar on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm going to pause here for a minute so that you have access to these tags and that you can see where you can find us on social media beyond today and beyond our platforms. So feel free to tweet or snap a picture and upload it on Instagram, maybe yourself on the screen if you are sharing with colleagues. It's always important to not just remain in this space for this hour and a half, but to share beyond these four walls. So the outcome of today's session is we're going to explore fake news and the relating issues that come about through fake news. We're going to be looking at enhancing learning by leveraging the importance of positive social behavior and hopefully be able to present ourselves in the best way possible on social media by establishing the following: a cosmopolitan identity, a values-driven mindset, and look at our teaching strategies for differential learning and to incorporate more engagement in and outside of the classroom. You know, we want our learners to meet us beyond just our lesson, but be able to engage us in all the ways that they spend time in a personal capacity. Let's harness that so we can engage them in an academic focus by giving them access to resources. We're also going to be looking at how social media in the classroom can transform the way we teach. We're going to look at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, to name a few, as well as Pinterest and the likes in terms of Google Classroom. So that's the journey we're going on today. I hope you're comfortable. I hope you've got a cup of tea or a cup of coffee with you. I hope that you can fixate your attention just on this, and hopefully engage and learn some things that you can take home with you to your own personal capacity, but also bring to your professional engagements. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce our guest speaker, Charmaine. She hails from an educational background, passionate about education, and is qualified in teaching beyond the classroom. That's developed into curriculum, textbook writing, IT integration, and also educational consultation. Charmaine is the brainchild behind so many initiatives beyond just WCED, but really is somebody that we can rely on in terms of being an advocate and a role model for digital transformation. Charmaine is an activist and a Microsoft crusader. I want to honor Charmaine this afternoon and thank her for her time in this very vital engagement. So Charmaine, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you, Tracy. Oh, you're giving me a big head here. Welcome, everybody, to this really stimulating and important topic in education. Thank you very much, Khafisa, for inviting me. It is indeed an honor to be able to share with Tracy and share just some pedagogical background in terms of social media, because I think teachers are finding social media very scary, as are parents. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. Is my screen visible? Can you see my screen? Tracy, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. All good.
Okay, all good. Okay, so it's really, really interesting because I'm seeing more and more how schools are using are focusing on inculcating values into their children, and schools are really working at instilling good moral values in their children so that they can take it up into further life. So this is just a little clip that I made on Doodly about what is values-based education or values-based mindset. So we have to ask ourselves, why values-based education? We know it's important, but why would we teach values? We've got so much else on our curriculum that we have to teach, and so many things we have to attend to. And why do we need to do values-based education? So first of all, it's a positive character building. It strengthens self-esteem. It encourages ethical judgment and social responsibility. The learners develop a secure sense of self, strengthens responsibility for their own learning, develops qualities of humility, strength, and integrity, and they become better citizens of the country. So overall, just these factors alone make it very, very important that we drive a values-driven mindset in our schools and in our classrooms. So I love this infographic that I found on my on the internet, all about students as partners. So up until very recently, students were not regarded as partners in education. Certainly not when I was at school. The teacher was the sage on the stage, and the teacher was the bearer of all knowledge, and they controlled everything that that happens in the classroom. And we are now moving over onto relationships being the basis of future education and giving the student voice. So in this case with values-driven education, schools identify, from what I've seen of many of the schools that I've gone to, they identify important values for the year as a school, as a collective. And those are widely advertised across the school in prominent places. So I have seen this at Weinberg Girls Junior. They've got the values that they deemed as important for the year, and they have little stickers on the steps. Going up, when you go up the stairs, you'll see there's a different value up each stair, and all schools have got different ways of showing what values are important, and it keeps reminding the children that these values are important. And then in a class situation, the teacher could actually sit together with the students, and they could, out of the values that the school has selected for the year, they could select 4 or 5 values that they want to focus on in that particular term or time frame within their class as a grade 4 class. So here we are giving the students voice, and they are taking responsibility. And of course, we know that if we make them part of the process of deciding what values we're going to focus on, they will take ownership of the process. So the first thing is that consensus is really important, and you need to unpack each value. What does it mean? What does it look like? What does respect look like? What does integrity look like? And then what does it sound like? So you need to have a conversation. What does respect look like? What does it sound like? What does it mean? They need to really, especially in the lower grades, they really need to understand that. And then if at a future time, so one of the teachers from Weinberg Girls Junior, Gabby Willis, was telling me that she caught one girl being nasty and disrespectful to another girl. And she sat them down. She said, we all agreed that we would focus on respect as one of the values this term. And now you agreed that you would focus on it, and now you are not following your agreement. So it's a very powerful way of getting students to buy into a value-based mindset. So values and social media. So learners need to practice applying the values they have learned in their day-to-day lives. It's really important, and they need to be reminded that they need to practice those values at school, at home, with their friends. But when it comes to using social media, from the time that students start learning using social media, we need to connect them to those values. They need to see how to use those values when they are using social media. It's really important, because then you will find if they use those sound values, they will use social media intelligently and responsibly. So, what is a cosmopolitan identity? I've just got a little clip here that I want to show you. So the whole concept of cosmopolitan identity is that we are part of a family, we are part of a school, we are part of a neighborhood, we are part of a city, we are part of a country. And so the whole notion of cosmopolitan identity is that we are, the whole of humanity is is a community. We all belong to one community. So it's the same as the phrase of a global citizen. So it's important, especially seeing as that students at a young age are already going onto social media, using the internet. They need to know what a cosmopolitan identity is and why do we need to have a cosmopolitan identity. So humanity as one community is bound by values. So in times gone by, it was just my school, my city, and I just take an interest in what happens in my school or in my neighborhood. And then we value, the common core of humanity is valuing humanity, and it always reminds us to be conscious of values. And then it involves moral courage, the ability to do the right thing. So here it's important to foster the cosmopolitan curiosity. I love that phrase, where students need to look at how can you develop or foster a cosmopolitan identity. So you need to become aware of the world using media. They need to use media. They need to use media responsibly. They shouldn't offend culture. They need to be in the know of other cultures. It's really, really important in terms of cosmopolitan identity. And if they travel, they must read about places, learn a few words in their language, appreciate others' cultures, music and arts. They must support policies. So if your school has got a policy in place, they need to support policies that make navigating your digital environment more user-friendly and safer. They need to vote. If they have age to vote, they need to vote. It's all part of being a global citizen. And then they need to connect on social media, and Tracy's going to take you into all the different types of social media that are available. They need to challenge stereotypes and misconceptions. That is just so important, and that's all part of the value-based mindset. And they need to engage in conversation. They need to talk about what is happening on the other side of the world and engage in conversations on social media, on their school platforms or their collaborative platforms. So we need to understand the class of 2030. I love this image somebody at Microsoft used in a presentation. I think it's very powerful. So our learners of today are called fidgetals. They are unwilling or unable to draw a distinction between the physical world and its digital equivalent. So if I behave in a certain way on the playground at school, I can do the same thing when I'm online. And they need to understand that they are two different worlds. They are not the same world. That is why it's so important to do value-based learning, so that they can understand what the difference is and how to behave on both the platforms. Because social media is inevitable. So we can't keep saying, oh, I don't like Facebook, I don't like Twitter and Instagram, I'm going to ignore it, I'm not going to use it in my classroom and whatever. Social media is inevitable and our students are using it a lot. So we need to understand how they are using it. Tracy will take you through that, and how we can navigate them, we can guide them to navigating their social media platforms responsibly and wisely. Social media plays a big part in many young people's social and creative lives. So we can't just ignore it and say, okay, we've got age level restrictions on certain social media, then if they're not 16, they can't use that platform. Unfortunately, students are getting onto social media younger and younger, and they like social media to have fun, maintain friendships, share interests, explore identities, and develop relationships. And it is an extension of the offline day-to-day face-to-face. It is not the same, it is an extension, and they need to understand that. So what is the connection between values-based education, cosmopolitan identity, and social media? Values-based education underpins cosmopolitan identity. So you can't work on a cosmopolitan identity unless the students have been taught and inculcated values into their learning and into their lives. And cosmopolitan identity has its roots in values-based identity, and we cannot uphold the one without the other. So the two go hand in hand, and these concepts will help guide and protect our learners in their social media activities. So I've put together some resources for teachers. Ashrik is going to share the link to this Wakelet in your in the Q&A. The internet is sluggish today. Right, can you see my screen, Tracy?
Yes, all good, stunning.
Okay, so I know a lot of you know a Wakelet, but Wakelet is a fantastic tool for curating and presenting information instead of just in raw links. So what I've done here, and you are free to take that link and go and have a look at the resources. It's completely free, and I have put some links into websites where you can go and have a look at My Social Life, for example, is a website which helps guide students through their social media and their life online and on social media. It is a very comprehensive program. And I've added things like ePals where you can get connected, you can take part in challenges. So it's just like a mini LinkedIn for students, but it's a safe place for school-going students where they can explore challenges and they can begin a pen pal exchange. Then the digital passport by Common Sense is a great tool. Okay, it's really meant for primary school where the learners have to go on, and it's free, and they have to complete each of the challenges in order to earn their digital passport. And the challenges include security, multitasking, privacy, on how to keep your passwords private, on how to navigate your social media world and your online world in a clever way, and then how to search on the internet and how to give creative credit. So this is a great tool for primary school. Interland is a Google game, and it's also free, where you have 4 different challenges where students have to learn how to be safe and secure. They have to it's also all about passwords. It's all about being kind on the internet, treating other people with respect. So Interland is a lovely adventure. The students absolutely love the interface, and this is a great way of teaching students about safety and about being kind and awesome on the internet. There's some information here. There's some classroom lessons here for you that you can go and have a look at. Some positive media activities for tweens and teens. And then we've also got some educational games that students can use to play, to get their heads around how does this big wide world of the internet and social media work. So there's a wealth of information in the Wakelet. You are very welcome to use that link. And then I've put in a link to social media benefits, risks, for children, teenagers, for parents, because a lot of parents are very, very, very nervous about social media, and they put net nanny on their children's devices, and they block them and whatever. And I think it's also incumbent upon schools to impart this kind of knowledge to parents, because if I look at how lost parents were when COVID hit, and they all of a sudden became teachers and they knew nothing about remote learning. They are just as scared of social media, and they need to have guidance. So that should be part of your offering to your parents. Okay, so this is your resources. Please feel free to use those resources. I have put in some references. Hafiza is going to be sharing this presentation with you. And before I close off, I am going to take you onto the Microsoft Educator Center. Some of you know it, some of you don't. But I have shared a link with Ashrik. So I've shared a code with Ashrik. So if you're not a member of the Microsoft Educator Center already, you are free to join. You just need to navigate onto education.microsoft.com. I'm going to be sending this link and instructions on how to register on the website. It is a free professional development portal for teachers in terms of digital transformation in education. And it's not all about Word and Excel and PowerPoint. It is about digital transformation, and there are hundreds and hundreds of courses that you can take in terms of your professional development and your journey. So to log in, when you go onto the Educator Center, you will log in using your Outlook or your Office 365 email address. If a Gmail address or Yahoo Mail address doesn't work, then you can create an Outlook account or use your school Office 365 account. You will log in and sign up, and they will ask you to click accept so that they can award you with badges, achievement badges. And then once you have done that, you can go and explore all the training and the learning paths. You can go and have a look at lesson plans, and you can go and have a look at the Microsoft programs for innovative educators, where you become a Microsoft Innovative Educator and a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert, and how your journey with digital transformation goes. So for today's session, I've asked Ashrik to put the redeem code in the chat, and you can actually log in and put that redeem code into your into the redeem code box, and then you press redeem, and it will start tracking your learning. So that is the code that that Ashrik is going to put in the thing. I am going to send instructions to Hafiza. So if you find that you redeem a code and it says that you can't redeem it, I will up the numbers. That's why Hafiza is going to forward it to you. And then you will click on redeem, and you would have completed the custom following training. But you can go and select courses that you want to do on the Educator Center. You can go and select courses or groups of courses which are called learning paths, and you can complete the course, and you can complete the course, and then you can do a quiz, and you have to get 85 to 80% for the quiz. And if the course carries a badge, you will get a badge. And once you have done 2 hours worth of training, you get an MIE badge, as a Microsoft Innovative Educator badge, and then you can nominate yourself as a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert, and the instructions are here, or you can just contact me and I will help you with that. So after today, you will be able to go onto your profile, and you will be able to see, if this is the first time you've been onto the Educator Centre, you won't have any badges yet. After 2 hours, you will have a badge, and you can view your details and certificate and share it on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. I know that a lot of schools are sharing when teachers become MIEs or MIEEs, they share it on the school Facebook page so that the parents can see that the teachers are actually upskilling themselves. And then you can actually go and view your transcripts. And your transcripts are proof of your PD. So you can save that transcript as a PD. And when it comes time for your annual review, or you have to prove professional development, this document gives you, when it loads, this document will give you all the details of all the training that you have done on the Educator Centre. Right.
Fantastic.
I look forward to connecting with you. Thank you so much.
Charmaine, thank you. That was incredible. All the resources shared and information that you've already shared with us in your slot, I appreciate so much. Colleagues that are with us, let us delve deeper into this conversation. Charmaine, your conversation included speaking about the value of humanity, valuing others, consciously engaging in moral courage. I feel like those are the cornerstones of the road ahead and the things we are trying to achieve, not only with our learners, but with our professional community. So social media means a collection of interactive online platforms and tools. This allows for organizations to use, share, connect, to gain profiles, opinions, insights, experiences, perspective, and media. This access is vital, and it's the cornerstone of where we should be engaging our learners. It allows for the creation and exchange of user-generated content. It's basically teaching like we've dreamed of. And this desire for any educator or learner to have access and engage is not just the 21st century, but that's become the cornerstone of education. Including social media in the classroom is the way forward. And not just COVID showing us that, but in general, we see that there is so much we can have access to. So sharing and collaborating is vital in education today, and social media empowers us to be able to do just that. Although some people do have negative opinions about social media, using social media, or the purpose of learning, it's not about liking and sharing when we talk about education. It's about more than just how many posts are viewed. It allows us to collaborate in a way that we gain access to more than just what we create in our schools or the content our learners come up with. It makes us very big fish in an even bigger pond, and that's vital to recognize. I would like to share a video with you. I want to make sure that the sound is on, and here we go. that videos just encouraged us all to recognize the benefits are really limitless. So social media platforms can be active learning tools where learners come together for more than just getting to know one another on a personal level. It allows for their own specific way of assimilating information to be enhanced. Social media can shape and present information in a meaningful way so that we are bridging the gaps that might exist in terms of learning styles and the ability for us to engage with the learning activities we make use of in our classrooms. We are allowed to accustom our learners to what we need them to know and give them access to new ways of finding it out, of knowing it. It makes the process even more exciting, and it really is about meeting our students where they are. It's more than sharing information with our students. It promotes a deeper understanding of engagement. It's taking our learners beyond just connection and face-to-face interactions, but creating a space where we can motivate, encourage, and make our learners recognize that the world is really out there for them by just clicking a mouse. It's not about being able to afford an airplane ticket to travel to the other side of the world and gain knowledge about the artists that developed their skills in Europe, or understanding the environments by going to New Zealand and seeing where things take place in those ecosystems, or the bottom or the depths of the ocean. We no longer need a submarine for that. And social media allows our classrooms to become engaged environments. So for me, the biggest selling point is social media generates connection. It allows for collaboration in more than just I know you, but in taking it to the next level. The access to limitless, useful information that is provided creates an educational convenience, not just for the learner, but for us as educators as well. And it shares online tutorials that creates teachers that never need sleep. The click of a YouTube button means that you can literally be engaged 24/7 or beyond. This is providing our students with systems that can educate them beyond just the means of the beginning and end of the school day. The bell no longer holds back learning, but allows learners to engage in creative ways, more than perhaps even we as educators have explored. It also empowers the learners to come to the classroom with new ways of learning that they want to engage in. So I'd love us to engage now in an interactive Mentimeter Q&A. The QR code is available for you, and Ashrik will post the link in our chat. My hope is you'll be enabled to answer the question as posted and have access to seeing what the colleagues present here today think about the content. So I'm going to switch over to Mentimeter now. Let's have a look at what we are engaging with today. So the question I have posed for us is the following. Have you ever reposted something only to later find out the information is untrue? So we've got answers coming in now. Let's have a look. Have you ever reposted something only later to find out the information to be untrue? So far, everybody's saying yes. Anybody else? Let's hear from you. I love Mentimeter because it gives us the access to hear from our learners, especially those that might be introverted and uncomfortable in sharing by raising their hand. It's an anonymous platform that allows us to hear from the learners. And this social media gives us access to seeing what it is that our learners might be engaged with. I'm going to make sure that you can see exactly what I'm seeing in terms of Mentimeter as the results come in. So let's have a look. Have you ever reposted something only later to find the information to be untrue? So 75% of you are saying yes. We've got 25% saying no. Thank you so much for your response. 79, 21. For those of you that have never used Mentimeter before, as I get everybody's input, I quickly want to show you it's such a user-friendly interface. You're allowed to populate and engage with questions. There are exemplars, and there's opportunity for you to come up with a range of conversations. They don't only have to be yes or no. You can theme it, you can add visual aids. So for the case of today's, we've got 68% saying yes, they've reposted something only later to find out that that wasn't true factual information. And as more of you engage, so the statistic range changes. Now in the classroom, this is such an easy way for us to engage with our learners, and all they need is internet connection. Thank you so much for participating in the activity. My hope is that we're starting to see that when we collaborate, we get a better understanding of where we're coming from, and I can engage my learners in that regard. So let's hop on over back to my PowerPoint. Great stuff. So thank you so much for that engagement. I'd like to turn our attention to exactly that, fake news. And this often is a challenge for many of us because of posting or seeing something online we believe to be factual. We believe it to be something that is relevant and necessary to share. And this is often sometimes the reason we get tricked in the first place to believing that what we see online has been fact-checked for us. And sometimes we need to delve deeper into this. So the way to avoid fake news is through these interesting 5-step process. Check the source. Make sure not only as an adult, but as a learner, we're engaging them in the way that not all information they find online is vital information or truthful information. Look at the source. Is it somebody that is reputable? Is it a source that comes from something you can then search yourself to find deeper or more detailed information? Use the CRAP test. And by CRAP, there is a double A: currency, relevance, accuracy, authority, and purpose. Where does it originate from? Who is posting in regards to this content? Next, check the claims of the article. Can you follow them up? Is there a source behind the post? What is the date stamp of the post? Question everything. Does the site have advertisements? Is it clickbait? Is the source something that you can track? Is it a non-profit organization, or is it something that's stimulated around gaining financial gain? And what is the background of the author? Is it somebody that has something to gain, or is it somebody that's speaking from a point of authority because it's factual? Lastly, check the link of the article. Do they actually lead you to the information from a source that you can rely on? And this is something our learners need to be guided in. They need to be able to unpack the information they're sharing, not just for research assignments, but in their conversations, in their judgments and comparison of things they see online. Before you reshare a tweet, for example, it's always important to do these 3 things. Check where it's from. Look for the source to be careful of it being fake or being for clickbait. What's missing in the headline or the information that's been posted? Do the headlines and articles match? What you've clicked on, does it take you to the information you're expecting to find? And are there other news organizations talking or being engaged in conversation? Number 3, and finally, it's important to look at how you're feeling when you look at this article. Is it sparking an emotion within inside of you that's getting you to react? You must watch and manage your emotions online, and this is vital for our learners. You know, a common tactic is that we see something online and it's motivating us to do something, to action something. We've got to check that that action is in line with our own personal journey online. And with that being said, when we discuss fake news, we've got to check in with ourselves and recognize the factors that are at play. Is fake news encouraging misinformation? Is it tough in order for us to actually gauge that what we are spreading is necessary? Is the reason for us posting it something because we believe this information needs our attention? Sometimes it could be a bad actor looking to churn out fake news to get content spread, and then they become an influencer or somebody that's gone viral. We need to look at the hidden agenda. That is the attention that's being stirred for a positive reason. Are we sharing fake news on social media elsewhere simply because it's finding the information surprising? Or is it information that we find interesting? Now, with that interest being sparked, before we share and gain momentum for what potentially could be unfactual and viral news for somebody else's big payout, we must make sure that we're engaging in news that is newsworthy and reviewing the source to allow us to actually manage what we're posting. So in addressing our learners, it's important to look at shock factor. What's the long-term impact of what we post? Everything that happens online now ends up in our permanent record. And we want to engage here in understanding that the digital footprint, the digital shadow or online reputation, or even referred to as a digital tattoo, there are many terminologies that we can use to describe the candid camera that exists online. And we've got to engage our learners in a way that is proactive. We need to promote positivity online and not fear-mongering. You know, our digital footprint or shadow or online reputation follows us, and that's important that our learners engage in this conversation. Traditionally, digital footprint was a resource that tended to focus on the negatives, the culture of fear online, and this isn't helpful when we're trying to harness social media in the classroom for a positive reason. Our learners generally have a heavy presence online. Let's meet them there. Let's engage them in a way that protects and shapes their digital footprint for a positive outcome. While we can become complacent because we believe that the parents should be guiding this more so than the educator, it is our responsibility. We need to promote that what we see online really is shaping not anything goes, but that our conversation is of a positive nature so that in the classroom it's engaging in education. We need to harness digital citizen and internet safety, and there's a 4-layered approach in the teaching sphere that works really well. First is integration. The digital footprint in education should be embedded into the curriculum. What we're encouraging our learners to do online should be something that is authentic to what we want to live in an online space, not just when it's engaged for classroom support, but in their profiles that exist on Instagram or wherever they might be engaging, that it be something that is authentic to who they are as an individual. Next, we've got storytelling. Students should be presenting their real life scenarios, not a made up idea of who they are, but genuinely an authentic representation of who they are online, on social media platforms that you have access to, or ones that might be outside of our viewing. Maybe a profile that they've created that is private. We've got to think about strategies in terms of practical impacts we can make, practical engagements, toolkits we can put together to action ideas that are taught to students in a way that is recognizable. And then finally, we've got to be hand in hand in our community, not just educators, but we've got to partner with all of the stakeholders in their school environment, the parents, the school governing body, the educators, the managers. We've got to meet the learners in a space where they will continue to have access, even when one day a potential employer searches them online. And this overlaps when we're engaging our learners in an online space for social media and classroom process. We've got to make sure that that continued trajectory, that continued relationship online grows in a positive way when they're employed one day. So when you write the story of your life, don't let anyone else hold the pen. For me, this is so important, and Charmaine speaks words to this in terms of legal. Once it is said, the web is fed. So when we post something online, when we say it, when we post it, when it's on the web, we are feeding into the frenzy of what we are sharing. I can see a day in the not too distant future where your digital footprint will carry far more weight than anything that you might include in your CV or your resume. And this is so important to let this go all the way into the subconscious of our learners. They've got to recognize that what they've said in class, what they've said online now becomes one and the same. So this usage awareness is important. We've got to understand that collaboration cannot be confined, because when they exist in online space, there they continue to exist. There is no expiry date. So we need to be the role models here. We as the educators need to look at our own personal or private online support. And I'm talking about our social media platforms. You know, I think it's really important that we role model not only in the classroom space, but if our learners were to see us in Cavendish Square or the waterfront or any shopping centre, how would they see us engage? It's the same that we can say for our presence online. When they meet us there, what are they going to see? So we have an added responsibility. Interacting via technology allows for personal thoughts, emotional content, and private feelings to be shared at the click of a mouse. There's no step back, there's no pause unless we put it in place. We need to be readily available to thinking about what are the long-term consequences around social media engagements. And we need to draw awareness for this, not only as our learners, but for our colleagues, our educators that are in the venues next door to us. because social media platforms never forget. So there are potential pitfalls. It could be a time factor. It could be connectivity, that in the school there isn't Wi-Fi or connection in every lesson. But we can engage in a way that we can create the educational system long after the bell has gone. We've got to ensure that this engagement is positive and responsible, because a pitfall could be when that engagement on social media gets used against us. So us having platforms that are for a specific purpose is vital. Taking our learners to a place where their reputation is beyond repute, that what we witness online is positive, is encouraging, and is supportive. So let's consider policy here. I think it's important that we recognize that policy becomes our safety net. And this is where we need to have social media platform policies. We need to have school and community members engaged in these. The school governing body, the learner councils on our school councils, our leadership structures, and the parents need to play a part. They need to consider what rules and regulations must be in the space to protect, so that when we delve into engaging, the classroom is a safe space for learners to feel supported. So let's look at some of the ways that we can engage in social media. Google Docs is a fabulous place to always get started. It allows for collaboration. It's a tool where we can store and edit data. We can allow our learners to be Google citizens. We can encourage them to have Google email addresses and then have free access to the plethora of opportunities that Google supports. Blogs is another great space to share ideas, to document your journey online. We've just got to make sure that the message sent from blogs is shared in a positive space, that there is sharing and collaboration in what we share. You could ignite a class blog that documents the 5 years of high school engagement. We could invite our learners into a Skype space where they're engaging in online video conferencing. So connecting with experts on topics such as these is a good place to begin. It's dipping your toe into the examples that exist. Let's take it a step further, shall we? Let's look at Facebook. Facebook creates classroom groups at the touch of a button. Groups allow for collaboration and sharing of information internally, and it protects us if we only share or restrict that group to the class participants. Therefore, their image, their pictures, their content is safe. It doesn't have to be an open group for anybody to click and view. It can be something that is protected. And you delete the group once they've left the classroom. You allow it to just be an annual thing, so we generate a new one in the year that follows. You could develop a Facebook profile for a historical figure in history class, or for a character of a book in English class. It's an interactive way where learners can scaffold, design, and speak life in a modern way to somebody like Shakespeare, or historical figures like Nelson Mandela. We could also use Facebook to create newsworthy stories, to teach and connect, to dismay or disband fake news, and only post and regenerate credibility to what is available online. As younger generations love to document their day-to-day, Facebook allows us to do that for our classroom, for our class groups. We can post awards when a learner's done exceptionally well for an assessment. We can draw their parents into the space by sharing what's happening in the classroom by going live on Facebook. You can share educational content, videos, and articles in a reliable way. Facebook really creates a space where we have a community and we can share from classroom to classroom across schools. Pinterest allows us to do a variety of things as well. Create a class-specific Pinterest board where we share and collaborate, showcasing specifics to themes we might be unpacking. Like, for example, what it might have been like living in a different era, the dress, the food, the behaviors. We can engage in a way that gives us space to create Pinterest-style boards like Google Slides, or PowerPoints that showcase specific themes. We can take Facebook and merge it with Pinterest in regards to what are we finding inspiring today. Pinterest allows us to document and save links that we find valuable, and it allows all of us to collaborate in a safe space. And then it's no longer time sensitive. We can share this information in a way that it is saved, and almost like a Time capsule, we can review what interested us in grade 8, what are we now engaged in grade 12, and share along this timeline of our high school career, all thanks to Pinterest's availability to visually stimulate the conversation. We can hop over to Twitter and create a summarizing space in just 200 characters or less. What did you learn in today's lesson? On Twitter, we can engage and share or reply in a bite-sized, interactive, supportive model. Twitter allows for hashtags to encourage open forums and debates, to gather our opinion under umbrella topics. So today's lesson could be the hashtag positive engagements, and every learner tweets something about positive engagements. The hashtags can be something of design that is a thread that continues throughout the week, month or term. It can be long-term or short-term. It can be somewhere where we merge messages and create a Twitter thread for classrooms. The decisions that we make on Twitter are endless. We can share collaborative, important resources. We can draw attention to hot topics. We can allow news to go viral if we harness positive engagement when it comes to what the topics are we're desperate for our learners to engage in. If you were, for example, to set your class a project on your Twitter account, you could, through Twitter, tweet specific links that you think are vital for their research for your project. And it becomes a safe space where they can engage. And I absolutely love the fact that we're empowering the learners to also generate the content. It's not just the teacher that's left to do all of the dirty work, to spend hours and time constructing all of these resources. We're upskilling our learners to do it alongside us. We're giving them the space to engage. Instagram, another incredible opportunity that we can engage our learners. Instagram as a social media platform allows our learners to practice storytelling, a visual literacy, a form of engaging in a way that is pleasing to the eye. So for those of our learners that struggle with numeracy or have real challenges in terms of literacy, Instagram empowers them to engage in a way that is visually appealing while generating content that is vital. Creating an Instagram story is a bite-sized video snippet that can demonstrate a specific skill. It can be a 13-second summary of the oral that they're going to present in English. Or it can be a clip of the dance they're going to present in creative arts, or the activity they completed in physical activity in PE for life orientation. Instagram allows us to document, save, and create a really beautiful cosmopolitan view of what's happening in the classroom before the bell ends and long after the lesson has drawn to a close. If we think about Twitter, we think about all of the ways that we can engage, and there are millions of them. It can be daily, like I mentioned. It can be gaining the support of the United Nations, Barack Obama. It can be people of the ANC and the DA coming together in collaboration. It could be well-known spokesperson and influencers of specific topics. It can be unknown individuals. And we're all given a platform, a safe space to engage. So if you don't already have a Twitter account, I strongly suggest teachers, that is your homework today. Create your Twitter account and get tweeting. All that you need is 280 characters or less to make your voice heard. Teachers can create their own Google Classrooms, another way to engage their learners in social media. Here you can upload videos. We can save webinars. You can add material to the Google Drive and create surveys with Google Forms. You can direct real-time feedback. You can set assessments. You can share resources, and you can create a Google space, much like Facebook, specific to classroom engagement. It can be interactive, and it can be an ongoing stream of what's happening for everyone. This has been such a pleasure when it's come to COVID, because, for example, maybe you've had a learner that's had to go into isolation. They feel healthy, they're ready to engage. Google Classroom invites them back into the comfort of the classroom, but from their safe home environment where they might be isolating. It leaves no learner behind in terms of access. So maybe you've had a learner that's had a strong absence, or a learner that hasn't arrived at your school from day one. Whatever's been happening in your Google Classroom, they have access to. There is no time limit and there is no expiry date. Things won't get lost in Facebook as you have more and more followers, because Google Classroom maps things in a very systematic way where material is stored and saved. Students can research topics and share findings in Google Classroom through Google Classroom Hangouts. They can collaborate through Google Sheets, much like PowerPoint, but on an online platform. So they don't have to share that PowerPoint backwards and forwards, but rather if I edit something on right now and you access it at home, you have access to that exact same up to the second edit. So colleagues, these are some of the examples, some of the ways that we can engage our learners. We can engage our own peers and colleagues. So let's harness social media. Let's encourage engagement with technology. Let's focus on effective use of online activities by telling our learners that this is the space where they can not only socialize, but can also become educated. They can become cyber ambassadors themselves. Allow learners to plug into trends. Think about what it is you're hoping they learn, what it is that they need to engage in, so that we're harnessing the positives of things that are going viral. We're not allowing viral exploitation to take learners to negative spaces. Let's exploit the effective use of social media. Let's allow things like Instagram or TikTok to be more than just a social space of funny memes and hilarious jokes. Let's create a space where these things are engaging, are awareness generating, and are useful for future endeavors. What's really important is that we really are the role models of what we want to witness online. Let's engage our learners in a positive way, and much like Charmaine said, let's think about humanity online, what we share. Let's think about how we value one another. So even though we might not know the person, through social media we can understand what makes them tick, what they're engaging in, what books they might be reading, what content might be important to them because they've shared it. They see there's a need for it. Let's allow our learners to consciously engage so that they are aware of what that engagement means to their future self. Let's think about what it means when we have moral courage, because that shouldn't just be in a face-to-face space. Moral courage should be something that we engage in long-term use, even when we are in an online space. It's counteracting cyberbullying and empowering our learners so that they too become role models online. Let's empower positive user-generated content so that the things we start to see going viral are factual, are fantastic, and are full of future endeavors for positive change for our global citizens, because that's what our learners need to be. Their digital citizenship needs to be as empowering as their citizenship in a global classroom. Please allow social media in your classrooms. Let's not hold back this process. Let's rather research the ways that we can make it work for our classrooms. So big impact reminders, colleagues. Learners can build social credibility. Let's take them there. Let's upskill them. Allow them to be credible in their online space. So long gone are the days where they hide their social media platforms from their educators or parents, but their social media platforms become something of a positive nature that reinforces all the things we want, like human dignity, respect, compassion, and empathy. Let's be game changers in the chance of increasing our skills, the skill set of our learners and the skills we as educators have. Let's increase their ability to do more than just chalk and talk. So let's meet our learners where they are. Let's engage them in the space they spend most of their time. And let's really harness the positives of social media in a way that encourages the use to become a digital space and platform of learning beyond our wildest dreams. Engage with classes, what their needs are and what their ideas may be. Empower your learners and say, these are what I think we should do. Let's have a class Twitter account perhaps. Let's have a Facebook group. Let's engage on Instagram more than just pouting lip selfies. Let's be on Instagram to do research, to look for links and posts that are about certain topics like mindfulness or positive change or youth education. Let's search those hashtags now Let's create those hashtags today. Let's harness the positives of digital space. Let's make it limitless for the right reasons, colleagues. So my hope today is that you've learned something, that you've been engaged in a way that has taken this conversation to perhaps more than what you were originally aware of. Let's use Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest for more than just the classroom engagement. My hope is that you're going to think about new ways to engage. I'd like to take this opportunity before I share with you some of my Google Classrooms to thank Hafiza for setting up this cyber wellness and cyber effects phase 2. And not only that, taking it to a phase 3, allowing us to have these webinars. She is the brainchild behind this. Here is her email address. You can engage with her as a specialist in the field of e-learning. My hope is that you feel empowered by the engagement in today's session. I'd also like to draw your attention to some of the future webinars that are coming up. So please understand that there are more content to be covered in this regard. There is more coming. So this afternoon is not the end all of everything that is to come. I'd love for you to engage in the future webinars. So I'm going to stop sharing my PowerPoint with you at this stage, and I'm going to start sharing with you my Google Classroom. Just bear with me as I get it up on the screen. For those of you that have never engaged in Google Classroom, I would like you to have access to the variety of ways that I've engaged in Google Classroom. So that should be coming up on your screen momentarily. I'm hoping that you've been able to tweet or engage in Instagram. A special shout out to Mariska Swart. Thank you so much for the follow on Instagram. For those of you that have Instagram accounts, please feel free to follow teaching_life_orientation. That is my Instagram account, and you'll see that there is quotes, motivations, and information in regards to education. I'd also like to engage you in Pinterest and showing you that regard. So here is my landing page of all the Google Classrooms that I've got set up. Some are for staffing matters, some are for district education matters, some are for school council like our learner leadership in the school, and some are for teaching life orientation. Let's log on and have a look at the grade 12s. Let's make sure that you can see exactly what I'm showcasing here today. So let's have a look at my Google Classroom. So this is my grade 12 Google Classroom. You'll see that I've shared with my grade 12s a number of things as the year has unfolded. Some of it has to do specifically with awareness for life after school, some open days, some information sharing in regards to UWC, UCT, Stellenbosch. Some of it, some interesting links and videos I'd like my learners to view, and they can engage and chat back with me in this forum. In the classwork engagements, I've shared numerous resources with my grade 12s. Topic specific, assessment specific, I've engaged them in what we're going to uncover this year, some of the topics such as unemployment, all the resources that they might need, some Q&A, and some responses specific to that topic of how we have engaged in the national curriculum previously. So that's the national paper from previous year. Xenophobia is another topic. COVID-19, the role of media, and then I've also included links and support from the WCD, their engagements, their resources. I've posted past papers and memos from the national paper, and here this becomes a one-stop shop for my learners to engage. Nothing expires. I've set them some examples, some physical fitness, the activities they've needed to do at home, and the Google Forms that then follow. As you can see, I've got a number of Google Classrooms set up, some for fundraising, which has to do with the pastoral role of my classes, some for life orientation, the engagement that's happening in the classroom, and some are for leadership development, like my school council Google Classroom. This is some ideas, some fundraising endeavors we've been on, and some of the plans we have in place for success in terms of fundraising. So that's Google Classroom in a nutshell. As you can see, there is so much to be discussed and there's so much that we can explore. My hope is that you are invigorated this afternoon, is that you're finding a way that you can spoon feed your learners in a way that makes them empowered. They take responsibility and ownership in their engagement. Let's meet them where they are. Let's engage in their social media platforms. Let's make Instagram something positive. Let's engage in a viral content in terms of concepts you want your learners to engage in. Don't wait for the classroom. Let's get them aware and educated long before the school day begins or ends. I want to thank you so much for your engagement. We are shifting now into a Q&A session. Ashrik's going to take over here. I want to thank you so much already for the chat and the correspondence that you've already shared with me. So thank you so much. Over to you, Ashrik.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Charmaine. What an informative session. I've learned a lot personally, just sitting here. So we have a few, a few questions in here, but it's up to you guys to say who's going to accept which question. The first one, I think that should probably be for Charmaine. She talked about values. And I'm going to put the question in the chat as well. I'm going to also read it. How can we use technology in such a way that we can reinforce the values that we teach the kids in the class?
If you go and have a look at those resources that I shared, there are many ways of using technology to reinforce values in a class, especially if you have an online discussion, say on Google Classroom or on Teams or whatever. You can actually get children engaged in conversation. Another app that you could use, and I'll add the link to it, is an app called Flipgrid, where you can actually have in-depth discussions where the students talk. I can see Tracy's also a Flipgrid fanatic, where the children actually express how they feel, how they understand things, and they share with each other and with their teachers. So there are many ways that the students can use technology. I know that in Google, you've got a Jamboard. In Microsoft, you've got a whiteboard, and there are brainstorming templates in those whiteboards where students can actually brainstorm with each other about their understanding, about how they feel and how people should behave or react. So there are a lot of ways that students can engage using.
Okay, thank you, Charmaine. So colleagues, you just heard there's a lot of technology that we can start exploring with and start implementing what we are teaching our kids in our classroom about values. And let's use technology just to reinforce that positively. The next question is a very interesting question. I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm also going to read it. What is the learning curve for learners and teachers before they can use social media effectively in the classroom? And for example, the time spent learning the platform in the class, if we take, let's say, Twitter or Facebook, how much time, for instance, let's take the learners, it's a two-part question. For the learners first, how much time will we normally spend in a period? I think that's the question that many teachers will ask about contact time spent preparing the learners, and what's the benefits of it once it's sorted and they are all online.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna jump in on that one. I think what's really important in regards to teaching time and scaffolding the needs and the desires of a teacher in terms of digital learning is, let's meet the learners where they are. Get a gauge for your classroom ahead of engaging in terms of digital literacy. See where they're at. How many of your learners have Facebook? How many of your learners are on Twitter? Meet them where they are in that regard. If the majority of them are on a platform, run with that platform, because the ones that might not be there yet will come on board. You can give them the support, and their peers can take them there outside of the classroom environment. What I think is really important and vital to remember is that every app that we download from the iStore or from the Play Store has age restrictions. So there's always going to be a warning there on what age and phase this is appropriate. And then it comes down to the parents. What are they comfortable with? Are they handing their child a cell phone? Are they aware of their child's interaction? And like I mentioned earlier, this is where policy is vital. Let's make sure that we're engaging in a way that policy is protecting ourselves and our learners. So that classroom time isn't only about disciplining and managing the platform, but facilitating the expression of what the platform can achieve. So you can start out your engagement by just planting the seed. It's not like you have to throw the baby out of the bath with water and recreate your whole teaching style, but it's planting those seeds, dropping those crumbs along the way, and showing our learners that there's so much more available on social media than just engaging in conversations about where you were on the weekend and what your latest outfit might be. I think what's really important is that social media makes it easy to navigate. And so there are a variety of support structures built into the apps that can help teachers and learners understand how to make use of the application. So I hope that's answered the question. I think what's really important to realize is that we want our learners to be empowered in these spaces in the correct way. So sacrificing some teaching time could protect them in the long run.
Thank you, Tracy, for that. I think that was a question that many teachers were asking silently about the contact time and getting the kids on board and prepared to start using the social media. And I agree with you, meeting the learners where they're at and choosing that platform just to start running. But that also said, I think teachers must also just make sure they prepare themselves well before they start engaging with a specific tool. So with that as well, teachers, before you go deep diving into a certain social media platform, make sure that you're upskilled and that you can start using it.
Ashrik, if I may add, I think what's so important there is let's not overburden ourselves and feel overwhelmed in this regard. Throughout the seminar today, the webinar has shown us a lot of different options. Try and start off small, stick with one and run with it, let that evolve, and then build on from there. Don't bite off more than you can chew, or feel that you've set yourself already up for too much and you're on the back foot before you actually enjoy using the platform.
All right. Let's just see what is. I have one more question before I go check the chat again. How can we encourage? I'm gonna post this quickly. How can we encourage more teachers to start using social media as an educational tool, seeing that many of our teachers are so scared of using technology? And so what strategy or what wise words can we give our teachers just to get them that confidence to start exploring using different social media?
I can see Charmaine, I'm nodding along, so I'm going to briefly answer then hand over to you. You know, for me, the biggest thing is fear factor. And I think that's even for the parents in the same conversation. It's because there's a perception of an endless pit of concerns and reasons why we shouldn't. Instead of focusing on what is positive about it and the engagement that it offers, the support it offers our learners is so vast that the pros outweigh the cons. Obviously, there's a responsibility, much like anything new that we add into any space. We've got to be erring on the side of caution and be ensuring that we're engaging in a way that is leaving no one behind, that we are supportive in our techniques. But I think to get staff, colleagues on board, it's all about talking about it, sharing and showing. You know, if we make time for one another, and it doesn't have to be a long afternoon session or weekend workshop, it can be 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. It can be downloading the app for them and setting them the task of just playing around on it and then coming with their questions after some time. Charmaine, over to you.
Yeah, so I know that some teachers are scared because they hear the word cyberbully and whatever. So there are two suggestions I have. There are many groups, particularly in fact, on all the platforms, on Facebook and Twitter, etc., which are specifically related to education and how to use social media in education. You need to reach out to people who are already using the platform, and there are a lot of resources on the internet. If you just go and onto the internet and say how Facebook or Twitter is being used in education, there's a plethora of resources. The other useful way, and I always found that I learned an incredible amount of stuff, was from the students themselves. So if you sit with a student and say, how does this work on Facebook? How does this work on Facebook? They have got the tools at their fingertips, and they are they're knowledgeable on how to use the tools. You just have to implement your pedagogical knowledge to make it work for your class or for your subject.
Okay, thank you, Charmaine. I have a question here from one of our teachers. It's already posted in the chat. It's just above the question I've just posted. Good afternoon. How do we get parents to help us teach the learners to use social media responsibly? Sometimes things happen on social media after hours, but it filters into the classroom and becomes an issue. So I think it comes down to what strategies can the school implement. If I just rephrase it, what strategies can the school implement to kind of prevent that kind of thing happening after hours at home?
I think that challenge is vast. I think it's something that a lot of schools and individuals face, even communities outside of a school environment. For me, it filters back to it takes a village to raise a child. So there has to be collaboration. We have to get parents on board and aware of the risks. Just like if we were to say to parents that this is something we're actioning in the school, we would notify them before we made the implementation, even if it wasn't social media based. We would never do something without communicating that. And I think the stream of communication shouldn't just be once off. So it could be a thread of emails once a week, once a month, or a newsletter that's sent out once a term. That's just gives some pointers, some tips, some awareness, some support for parents, things to look out for, do's and don'ts, the way to manage themselves online, encouraging them to be the role models that we need. Just like we're encouraging our staff to be that, we've got to take that message home to our parents as well. I think here collaboration is so vital because at the end of the day, we can't do it alone. And we're needing the parents to support us in the strategy to provide the child with a digital platform, be it a tablet or a phone or a laptop, whatever it might be. My concern is that we can't just throw money at the problem. The parents need to meet us there. So collaboration, sharing tips, emailing once a week or once every 2 weeks, a cycle, just tips. Things that we're witnessing on our campus, things that we're aware of that's happening, and asking them to continue the conversation at home. I think that's a really good place to start. Charmaine?
I'm going to come in here. It's also, and Tracy and I have both spoken about policy. It is so vital that as a school you have, and as much as we hate policy, they are very necessary. Yeah. The exact, this is how the learners can behave on social media. This is how the parents can behave, and they basically need to have a contract with the school that they understand, and all of that stuff that Tracy says, sharing with the parents each week, do's and don'ts and tips and whatever. But that policy is the starting block.
Totally agree with you, Charmaine. Thank you, Tracy, as well. I think policies is key regarding this issue, just to make sure that our parents are aware, as well as our learners are aware, and the same go with our teachers. It's a whole mind shift. And even though we don't like policies, policies are there to protect us and also there to guide us. So thank you for that answer. And I think seeing that many of us are moving into that space, I think principals in schools, we start readjusting and aligning our policies with what's happening in our 21st century school setup. Now I have another question here. Seeing I'm going to post this quickly here. I'm muted, sorry. My learners don't have devices at school. How can I teach them about social media? Seeing that many of our schools don't have interactive whiteboards, all of that kind of technology, there's still some of the schools that struggle with that. From a teacher's perspective, what can teachers implement? This, let's say, unplugged offline activity, just to talk about how to navigate social media platforms.
Thank you so much for that question. That is a major challenge. So that's a challenge in education long before we're even adding social media to the mix. I think what's important to realize is, as the teacher, you can partner in regards to those that do have access. So there can be a collaboration, obviously facilitated and managed appropriately. Small steps in this regard are vital. I would say that it is going to require some prep ahead of the lesson. Taking screenshots of certain, the word I'm looking for is digital identities. So screenshots and applications like Twitter or Instagram, how to manage it, how to use it, and the positives of integration. So that in the lesson, you're not necessarily requiring it because of connectivity or data or the challenges of devices, but you're still bridging the gap and encouraging the learners to recognize here is access. When you are connected, when you do have access, this is what I'd like you to do. This is what is available to you online. Because I think we need to recognize that within our home units, there might be challenges. Within our classrooms, there might be challenges. But these learners are going to go through life where they may overcome those challenges. And we do not want to leave behind a learner. I also think what's important is to engage in a way that is constructive for long-term use. So you might start off engaging with just responsibility in an online space, looking at things like a digital footprint, looking at things of how are you engaging online, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, educating learners about cyberbullying, but taking it a step further to say you don't have to have all the answers in these regards. There's information of how to overcome cyberbullying. There's information more than just typing in on Google the answer or requesting it. There's more that can be employed. There's more that can be engaged. And it's taking our learners to a space where they can generate, create, and share. It's allowing them to have that access to Pandora's box for the right reasons, not to think that only negative things are going to come out. Yes, access is a challenge, but we can overcome that. For example, when I'm engaging learners of the things I want them to do at home, I'm not there, I can't guide them step by step in that regard. Some of them need to go to an internet cafe, but I can print for them the screenshots, the steps. I can give them the tools to make them understand the benefits of visiting these sites and the ways I'd like them to review. And I think that's really important to recognize.
I just want to come in here. I know we nearly finished. I do believe that the majority, especially the older learners, have all got cell phones. They've got that little computer in their pocket. And schools have been at 6s and 7s as to how to deal with cell phones, because students were looking at other data other than education data and whatever. And once again, it comes down to policy, because that little computer that sits in your learner's pocket is a very powerful computer. And they can navigate their way obviously, if the school has got connectivity, they can actually navigate their way through social media on their cell phones, but the school needs to have a really good policy. And then the other way is to network with other schools, that have got connectivity. And maybe let them do a webinar for you on how they are navigating their social media world.
Thank you so much for that information. I think that is a question that is so close to many of our public schools' heart. How do they navigate this kind of obstacles? And I think it's what you guys are mentioning, they are all true. If the scenery is changing, kids go home and they might have a cell phone. So we can't say we're not going to teach it, we must still teach it, that they have the knowledge, they have the information. So when they do start using the technology in the platforms, that they know how to navigate those platforms. Last words, I'm going to give each of you guys 30 seconds. Charmaine, I'm going to start with you. Any last words? And then I'm going to switch over to Tracy.
Yeah, so thank you so much for inviting me. It is a stimulating topic. It's an exciting topic. And I think the most important thing for teachers is that if you are going to use social media, which you really should be, it's an amazing platform for education, is that you navigate your path carefully and you network and work with other teachers to get that pathway sound, so that the students can go onto social media safely and responsibly. all of course rooted in values-based education. Thank you.
Thank you, Charmaine. Tracy, any last words? 30 seconds. Tracy, you're muted. You can't
My
hear.
apologies. Thank you so much. From my side, I really just want to reiterate the importance of meeting the learners where they are. I think that they might be ahead of us in this conversation and might be aware of a lot of things for their own personal gain. But let's turn that into a positive in terms of educational gains. Let's take social media to the next level by triumphing more than just talking to one another online. Let's educate one another online, because there's so much fun and collaboration, and there are so many resources available that it bridges the gap between first world and third world, the haves and the have-nots. And I think if we utilize the ability to engage positively, our learners will reap the rewards. So thank you so much for this afternoon. Ashrik, Charmaine, everybody, you've been awesome. Those working behind the cameras, setting up, making sure that we were live on time, etc. Hafiza, spearheading this opportunity. I hope some of the colleagues present here today will be engaging us in future seminars and webinars. And just from my side, a big thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Charmaine.
Thank you, Ashrik.
Okay, thank you. I just want to mention one more thing. This was a very important conversation. So colleagues, teachers, it's important. We are the role models and we are modeling to our kids how we must behave. So it's important that we must realign how we think about social media and how we're going to use it and how we're going to model it to our kids, because they ultimately follow what we do. So once again, thank you so much for this valuable information. And seeing in the space that we're moving in, we will have more of these conversations. There's more webinars coming, so please come and join. So once again, big thanks, big shout out to everyone behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. I'm just the voice, just at the end. So once again, thank you so much, and see you guys in the next webinars.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.